morning, everyone. If you were here the last time, you'd have observed that we did not do an opening prayer. So, and it's actually tradition for any Idan meeting to have an opening prayer. So if you could please just rise. And it's not just about tradition. What we're going to do today actually requires prayers. So, yeah. So, in Jesus' name, Father, we thank you for today. We commit today's workshop activities into your hands, and we pray that the knowledge that is being taught towards us, that it creates impact in our lives, and we're able to impact our offices and other people that we meet in Jesus' name. Thank you, Lord, for answered prayers. All right. Please, you may be seated. First of all, I would like to appreciate the NEC, that's the National Executive Committee of Idan, for, being able to execute this particular event. A lot of effort went into it, and, really appreciated. I also like to appreciate our sponsors. Without them, obviously, a lot of things wouldn't have, been able to happen. Also, I'd like to appreciate our guest speakers and, facilitators here. I remember having to make phone calls to each of them. Mr. Charles, Mr. Larry DePaiva. In fact, Mr. Larry's one was quite funny. I think the first conversation I had with him, he said he set up a meeting in a particular restaurant. And I looked up the restaurant. The first thing I looked at was the bill. I was like, okay. It was quite an interesting meeting, and I'm definitely sure that, we're going to gain a lot from these particular workshops. So yes, this is the CEO Roundtable Part 2. It's a 3-part series. The main theme is building sustainable systems and structures for interior design businesses in Nigeria. And we had part 1, which was from passion to practice, or as my colleagues changed it eventually for me to from passion to profit. We had the likes of Mrs. Nwamaka Okoye, who spoke on organizational DNA of an interior design business, where she drove on unique businesses, on how to create a unique identity for your business, strategy and systems culture, and then, incorporating the Nigerian influence in what you do. She did recommend a book, if you were here last time, The Advantage by Patrick Leonardi. Did anybody read it? Not yet. Interesting. It's actually a very interesting book. I read it. It's quite short. I think about 300 pages. But it had to do with organizational health. You might be an athlete. Maybe the fastest man in the world, Usain Bolt, for instance. But if you're not healthy, you won't be able to, reach the level or attain a certain point that you want in your career. So it does talk on organizational health. And then we had Mr. Michael Awonowo of McD Designs, who took the topic from hustle to structure. And he gave us a real talk on how to formalize your business, from literally growing from a 3D visualizer to somebody that works with the likes of BAT, Google, Softcom, NLNG, PwC. To work with such organizations, you must have certain structures in place, because, like ISO certifications and all. He did mention something about having a website. Did anybody, if you were here, hope you guys were. That was the minimum requirement that he told us to do. And then after that, we had Mr. Byron Chukwudi, who took us on a workshop on business mapping. He also gave us a 30-day challenge. I don't know, where he said something like you give yourself a particular goal to do in 30 days, and little steps build momentum, literally, in your business. And I do hope that we all sort of practiced it. Now, the reason why I'm emphasizing, or I had to recap this, is back in, I'm not sure if it was primary school or secondary school, but there was this particular book, Mastering English, secondary, primary, one of them, and there was this particular story about a man that had this infestation of rats in his house, and so he came up with this idea of bringing a cat in, and so because the cat was there, the rats couldn't start running around the way they used to before, and so they held this meeting saying, okay, how are we going to solve this particular problem? And then one of the rats, came up with this idea that, oh, you know what, let's build the cat, and then whenever we hear the bell ring, we know the cat is around, and we just, find our way. And everybody was like, yeah, solid idea. And then it came down to who will build the cat? Execution. We were all gingered, I know. We all left here with fire, but this particular part 2 is about execution. So it's not about being motivated, it's just about steps on how to actually actualize, the certain goals that will help your organization to grow. And with that, please permit me to just run through the agenda of what we'll do today, and then I'll call on Mrs. Linda Adeyemi to help read the citation. So first off, at 10:10, it's 10:27 now, but yes, the welcome and opening remarks, which is by me, your chair. And in the next 1 hour, we'll have the workshop on creating operational systems that stick by Mr. Charles Dairo. Solid facilitator, when I was reading his bio and I saw something about $10 million revenue. Interesting. Some people, anyways, please clap for that. So that's no small feat. And then we will also be having a workshop on pricing, people, and finance structures for interior designers. Here we have a CFO, as Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Larry DePaiva. He's consulted for the likes of Coca-Cola, which is not a small company at all. Clap now. Okay, you're waiting for the citation. No problem, let me just... and then we'll definitely have a fireside chat where your questions, you guys would... Please do not drop any AI-generated questions. I want it to be from a point of pain, literally something you've experienced, because the topic will be on finance, talent, and recruitment. Some of you would have, I expect most of you to be executives in your companies, and therefore, when you're recruiting people, or when you've recruited people, over the times, you'd see that, is the person being efficient? Is it loyalty that is clouding your judgment on certain things? Certain questions that you need to ask. Please feel free, and they would answer your questions, I assure you that. And then we'll have the closing remarks by our president. And then after that, we'll have a session of networking, Funny enough, I just remembered when I mentioned the president and networking. She's always asking me this question whenever I see her. She'll say, why did you join Idan? And I'll be like, okay, because primarily I'm an architect, right? But then I noticed that interior designers, I don't know, they sort of were making the money, in quotes. Not that architects were not making money, but the amount of time we spend on the project compared to the amount of time interior designers spend on the project, I don't know. The value, I felt there was something more that I could learn from them. And so I attended my first IDAN meeting, which happened to be a CEO roundtable. And I think the gospel was basically ministered to me, and I had to join this particular profession. And ever since I joined, I sort of met people, that have actually, I've collaborated with them, and we've done business together, and it's quite, refreshing to see that, yes, at least the reason why I joined IDAN, the money, not like the money is there, but not as much as I've, but it's coming, I'm pretty sure. And, but yes, I really do hope that just the way the CEO Roundtable impacted me, I hope it does impact somebody else as well. And I would have Mrs. Linda Adeyemi on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much. Consider he's a very, very straight-to-the-point guy. And so before we call our first speaker, which is literally the next item on our agenda, I'd just like to loosen up the air a little bit so that we can get ready to absorb everything that we're going to be learning. First of all, my name is Linda Adeyemi. I'm privileged to be a member of the Idan NEC. And speaking of the Idan NEC, I'd like to acknowledge, of course, the presence of our president, who is with us physically today. Please put your hands together for her once again. We have our Secretary General, and we also have other committee chairs who just, get the Idan engine running. So thank you so much, everybody. I also like to acknowledge the Idan board of going round. You know me, last time I went round, so I'm going to go round again. Don't worry, it's not a difficult question. Just pick one or two people. The question is, and I took a cue from what Abiodun said. He said that President is always asking him that, why did he join Idan? Me, I want to ask, why did you choose a career in interior design? That's very simple, not difficult at all. So, who will build the cats? Yes, I love her smile. She's just smiling, and I'm attracted to this very radiant smile. Hello, please, your name and why did you choose a career in interior design?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Major, and I'm new to the interior design concept. And one of the reasons why I chose this career, it started from passion. I could just see an empty space, or I could just see something, and then I'm like, okay, I can move this from here to the next section. Well, I've had an eye for interior designing. I really don't know about financing or doing it to get money, but I've had friends over the years and then family members. I can change their space, my personal space, or even I've actually done a couple of jobs for some startup companies where I just do some things, but I don't have the industry eye, or I'll say I'm not yet open to the industry eye to know what's happening. So I just did it off my head, of some inspirations. But when it comes to financing, I think that's why I'm here today. That's why I'm here today, to network and then see how I can move from where I've started already.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you. So you're in the right place. I'm sure you will have all your questions answered. I want to pick a gentleman. There's someone I was eyeing. He has just stepped out, so I'll just stop here. Hello. I know you, but we still let everybody know your name and why did you choose a career in interior design.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Wasim, and I'm already with Idan since I came to this country. We are pro-blind and also together in the field. So at first, in my background before pro-blind, I already studied interior architecture. But just to give you a quick and general idea about what happened. So in my childhood, I like always to see things properly done, aesthetic, and I always aim to something new, especially in the interior space. So any empty space, you can do anything inside, and from here it started the story. So from there I started to study interior architecture, and after that I joined soft furnishing industry. I combined together, because always if you have a space, you need material inside. And to combine the material together to give you the proper look, you need to combine different thoughts, not only the structure, also the soft furnishing. So from there it started. With Idan especially, we are gaining a lot. We are connecting very well with others. We are even learning more from other people, and we are keep learning together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for indulging my questions. Thank you. I think the connecting thread is that many of us, started from passion. So it's from passion to practice, and then hopefully we can also get a profit. Thank you so much, everyone. So getting right down into it, we're going to be going into the first workshop session. and it will be anchored by Mr. Charles Dairo, whom I'm very, should I say, privileged to welcome, because one of Charles's products, we've been using it in my firm for about 4 to 5 years now, and it works. So, I mean, just to say that he knows his stuff. All right, so I'll just be reading his bio, and then he'll come up right after. All right, just give me a second. So Mr. Charles Dairo is a seasoned technology expert, product designer, and business executive with over 15 years of experience helping businesses thrive through design, technology, and systems. He is the founder and CEO of CK Digital, one of Africa's leading web design and software development agencies, which has served over 450 businesses with a 92% client satisfaction rate and over $10 million in generated client revenue. Charles is also the co-founder of BizUp, an AI-powered SaaS platform that transforms standard operating procedures into automated workflows, helping organizations streamline operations and scale sustainably. Most recently, he launched Kindly Book, a free payment software that enables service providers get paid for consultations and other appointment-based services through a single link. As a multi-time founder, Charles has built products that have reached global audiences, from product hunt recognition to thousands of active users across Africa and beyond. His ventures have consistently focused on one goal: empowering businesses with the systems and tools they need to grow efficiently. Beyond building companies, Charles is committed to mentorship and ecosystem growth. He has mentored emerging founders through platforms like Founder Institute and AfriHacks, and has spoken at over 70 conferences worldwide, including SaaS Open in New York. At Idan's Roundtable, right here, right now, he will be speaking on the theme, Building the Engine, Operational Systems for Growth and Sustainability. He will share practical insights on why systems fail, how to build structures that stick, and the tools that help businesses, creative or corporate, scale with both flexibility and efficiency. Please, with a very resounding round of applause, let us welcome Mr. Charles Dairo to the podium. Welcome, 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 sir. Welcome, most accomplished sir.
Thank you so much, Linda. Good morning, everyone. All right, it's my pleasure to be here. I want to first say thank you to Idan. Special thanks to Linda and to Abiodun for making this happen. I started business right after school. So I graduated from Redeemers University. We were the very first set at RUN. I studied computer science, and the first couple of years in school, I was playing. I started a dance group. Yes, I started a dance group. We were doing shows in school. I was wasting my parents' money. And then first year, I had a GPA of about maybe 1.6 or something. I'm serious. About 1.6. Second year, I was trying to take things seriously. But you know how it is with CGPA. The way you start will haunt you till the end. All right? So at the end, interestingly, final year, I had the best graduating result. I had 5.0 first semester, 5.0 second semester. Long story. That's one of my biggest testimonies. So it gave me a lot of confidence that, okay, I'm not dumb. Like, I can do things. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the kind of job I wanted. I had served at LM Ericsson, a multinational. They had said, Charles, if you graduate with a 2.1, just come back. You have a job. I graduated with a 2.2. So I couldn't go for that. I couldn't get that job. So I was wondering, what do I do? So I started learning about certifications and all of that. So I started reading, doing certifications. I was passing those certifications, but during that process, there was a skill I had learned in school called website design. And so I just thought, okay, you know what? While I'm trying to get a real job, let me just use this skill. So I designed a website for my sister. She had this jewelry business she was trying to do. Designed a website for my church. Designed a website for my friend, my sister's friend. And I put up that website. I put up all those projects on my portfolio. And then people started reaching out. They didn't just start reaching out automatically. I learned something called search engine optimization. Basically, get people to find you when they search on Google, right? So, and then someone reached out, oh, I like what you did. Another person. Long story short, that company, CK Digital, is 15 years old now. We've worked on over 600 projects till date for some of the biggest companies in Nigeria. And I share that story because I can relate with a lot of service providers that start their businesses from a point of interest and passion without structured business training. So many people start their businesses without doing an MBA. Many people run their businesses without any structured mentorship even. People that are in Idan, I think you are blessed, right? When I started my business, there wasn't like a community like this where all of us within the same industry are learning from one another. So I had to learn a lot of things the very hard way by reading books online, mentorships from people that were happy to help, but it generally helped me. So one thing that I've been very passionate about is how do we combine this passion that we have for our services and the skills that we have with tools that will help us scale. I was joking with someone. I told them that doing business in Nigeria is like doing entrepreneurship on hard mode. Hard mode. Like you decide, okay, you know what? I want to play this game on hard mode. So, but what we've seen consistently is that even despite the challenges, you still see some people thriving. And granted, there are people that thrive that they have some backing, right? Or they've had some advantages. But there are also people that have come from almost zero and have been able to build something sustainable. So my goal has been, how do we build a business, especially a service-based business that can scale? How do we, in Nigeria, build a business that 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, the business is still running? So my goal here, and what I'm hoping that we can achieve together, is to look at what are some of those problems that make it difficult for small and growing businesses in Nigeria to run sustainably. How do we, what are some of those advantages that we can leverage to make it easy for us to run our businesses despite the many challenges that we are facing? All right, so that's the core of what we'll be doing today, and it's going to be practical. All right? Now, key things that I promise that we would settle today is, one, each person should, by the end of this session, be able to create a one-page blueprint for one critical process. One. All right? Then we will be able to draft an SOP or checklist for a critical process in our businesses. Next, we will be able to define key KPIs for those specific things, the most important things in our business. And finally, a 30, 60, and 90-day implementation plan. So it's going to be practical. Now, there's a worksheet that is going to be shared, and the idea is just so that you can write down and implement some of the things that we are going to discuss today. Now, while I've been told I have 1 hour, I intend to wrap up before then. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Feel free to interrupt. All right? Now, why do systems fail? Now, before we go into the idea of why systems fail, what is a system? A system is basically a structured way of combining process, people, tools to achieve a result consistently. What are examples of, so based on that definition, we want to achieve something consistently. We want to combine people, processes, tools, and even data to achieve this consistently. Who can give us ideas or examples of processes in your line of business? What are some of those processes, things that you would like to achieve consistently? You will want to do those things consistently every time. Examples? Yes. That's a perfect example. Client onboarding is a critical process in most client-focused businesses. Any other example? Anybody? First-time site visit, right? What do you do each time you visit a client's location? You want to ensure that those things are done the right way every single time. So it's not in the middle of a project you realize that there's something that we should have taken care of that wasn't done at that initial visit. So those are two good examples of systems. Now, why do systems fail? One is that they are too complex. If you cannot succinctly define or describe your process to someone that joins your team, it's too complex. And many times we assume that our processes need to be complex for them to be effective, but that's not true. And we'll see how that works. So the key idea here is ship a 5 to 7 step MVP process. MVP is like a product management term. It means minimum viable product. It's not perfect, but it's the minimum, meaning what's the least we can do to make this work. Viable, meaning that it's actually effective. We're not saying because we want to do an MVP, we're doing it anyhow. Minimum viable product, right? So we're going to, in this session, define an MVP process for our individual businesses. Now, another reason why systems fail is no single owner. You assign a task and say, team, get it done. Who is team? Everybody's job is nobody's job. Okay? So you define a process called client onboarding. Who is responsible for client onboarding? Who is accountable for client onboarding to ensure that client onboarding is done right? Many times we feel like we've delegated, but we've not really delegated, especially if there is nobody that is directly responsible or accountable for that process. Now, not in the flow. This basically means that you want people to know, you want people to do something consistently, but the guideline to do that thing consistently is not accessible. So maybe you actually spent time to work on standard operating procedures, but you printed it, put it in the office, but those are the same procedures you want people to follow when they go for client, for site visitation. So they have to try and think, what did they say we should do first? It's not accessible. It's not in the flow. Sometimes an SOP needs to be printed and put on the site where the actual work is being done. Next, too many tools. And especially in this age of AI, where there's so many tools out there, some will even say, don't bother subscribing to a tool, just do it yourself, build a tool yourself. There is a very high likelihood that we will be bombarded with tools. And one of the biggest issues that team members have is sometimes not enough tools, but many times too many tools. You say, okay, from email, go to Trello, go to Notion, go to this, go to that. Now, there are some tools that are absolutely necessary, but there's a point where we can overdo it. All right? Now, the best practice is have one source of truth. You can link to other places, but have one source of truth. And I'll speak about some of these tools in this session as well. Now, no metrics. We've defined that this is our client onboarding process. And we are happy that we've defined a process. We've designed some of us have very nice flow charts. We've trained our team on how to use this process, but we don't track it. Is it working? We don't know. How long does it take us to onboard a client on average? We don't know. How many clients give us a 5-star testimonial on Google after we are done with their project? We don't know. Because we're not tracking it. So we don't even know how to improve the process. Because if you don't measure it, how do you improve it? So we're going to look at that, right? So the recommendation is at least 3 KPIs. In fact, if you can use at most 3 KPIs, great. So that people know exactly what they are tracking. It's possible to have too many KPIs where you are trying to track this, track that, and it's overwhelming for the team members. Every team member needs to know the specific thing that they should be tracking. When I get in a meeting with the boss, what are the 3 key metrics he or she will ask me about? It needs to be consistent and defined. Now, no training. Many times, especially if you consider the way many of us started our businesses, we learned the skill ourselves. We went through different battles to fully understand this thing. But many times when we hire people, we just, for some reason, assume that this thing that we learned over the course of 5 years or 10 years, this person will get it in 1 week or 1 month. And then we are frustrated when they don't get it. But then, the thing we need to ask before we blame anyone is, did I train this person? And there are different levels of training. There's some basic training that you expect that, someone in this field should have. But then there's also training regarding how you do things. Because the way you do things is your selling point. That's what makes you stand out from every other business out there. Have you trained them on how you do things? And this training part is not easy. It is hard. But if we are going to grow businesses, we cannot run away from training. So the earlier we decide and conclude that training is part of our business, the easier it is for us. What are some of those challenges? You say, I trained this person and the person left. It will always happen. As long as you've signed up to be an entrepreneur, you've signed up for that problem. So if you know it will happen, you just have to brace yourself and say, yes, it's part of business and I'm going to make it work. So it means that you have a pipeline. People come in, they go through this standard training, and there's an expectation that by the end of this training, this is what they should be able to do. All right, moving forward. Now, in the worksheet that you have, there's a diagnostic tool there. I'm not sure exactly what page it is. Okay, is that it? Okay. It's on the very first page. All right, so operational maturity, quick score. Yes, I need a copy. Thank you. Operational maturity, quick score. And this is practical has started, though. Practical has started. Now, under operational maturity, quick score, there are 10 points there. 10. What you would do is right before each one, so I will read each one, and you will check, right? When you check, you put a number beside it. The number can be 0, 1. In fact, don't even use the checkbox. Let's just use numbers. 0, 1, and 2. Okay? 0 means we don't have this. 1 means partial. 2 is consistent. Not that we have it, but that it is consistent, which means it is defined, it is working. People know it, and we are seeing consistency in that particular thing. So, the very first thing is, and obviously I'm not going to tell people to raise their hands. First, we have a documented client brief intake. So that's a documented process for taking in new clients. It means we have it. 2 means that we have it and it's running consistently. We don't have any issue in that part, okay? 0 is we don't have it. 1 is, yeah, we are somewhere in that process, okay? So you write either 0, 1, or 2, and I'll move faster now. 2, our proposals and contracts use a standard template. Every new client that we deal with, there's a standard proposal template that we use, or there's a standard contract that we use for each client. 3rd, change orders follow one path with approvals. This is what I hate most about service businesses. As someone that has been in service business for a while, what I detest the most is change orders. When you started working on a project and that's when the client changes their mind. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, I thought it would look great, but it's not really looking. Or those clients that say, I don't know what I want, but I know what I don't want. Have you heard it before? Yeah. So I think we can all relate. Now, but so if we, as much as I know that I hate change, because I think I like to be very structured. Like, if we define that this is what we are doing, let us do it. But when we are working in the creative industry, it doesn't work that way. If we were selling products, I think it's much easier to scale a product business than a service business, right? Because of this human involvement, this bias, this something. In the creative business, there's nothing that is objectively good. Things are very subjective. All right? So, 3rd point there. Our change orders follow one path with approvals. Now, I'll just move faster. Procurement uses purchase orders and approved vendors. 0, 1, or 2. Our site handover has a snag checklist and sign-off. 0, 1, or 2. Tasks live in one board, not in chats. This one. This one. All right. Next one. Each process has an owner, the person that is accountable for it. We track 3+ KPIs weekly. Now, this means, for each core role, it's not like the entire company tracks just 3 KPIs, but for each major process, all right? The team, that's my team, is trained with simple SOPs. And the thing is, we know if our SOPs are simple or not. We know, all right? And finally, our systems are reviewed monthly. And for this one, I would even allow, even if it's quarterly, but do you review it consistently? Okay? All right, so what you do now is do a sum of all of the points. Is there anyone that wants to tell us what they scored? Over 20. No, we're all here. See, I'll be very honest with you. Even I'm the one speaking. We don't have to, it's not 2020. Because there are always areas where this particular one is difficult. But we are looking at what's the ideal situation. All right? So, anybody? Yes? 15. Fantastic. Anybody? I want to hear 2, 5, 9. Okay. 9. So, even if we stop here, right, this is very helpful. Because unless you disagree that some of these things are not important, and there are some that you might feel like, maybe like the chat one, like it works and all of that, right? But if you agree that these are important, even if we stop here, it has shown a gap. And you now know that, okay, these are things that I need to do to improve systems in my company. All right. Moving forward. So this is just for us to have like a reality check, just so that we understand where things are, but we'll go into how do we actually do this. Can I get the actual presentation? Yes. Oh, I was looking at. All right. Now, so we've done, in terms of these quick diagnostics, right? We've done step 1, which is to score our operational maturity. Now, step 2 is pick one process to fix first. In all of these things, like if you think about your business, what's one process that is very critical that you would like consistency in? That if you can nail consistency in this one process, it will make your own life easier. And this is about you, the business owner. What's that one process that you need absolute consistency in? Okay? Now, the next step is we will map it. Okay? We will map it. All right. So right on page 1, towards the bottom, we have the system blueprint canvas. It spills into page 2. All right. Let's see if there's some consistency. Maybe like 5 people mention what's that one process that you would like consistency in, that you want to nail. Yes, please. Monthly, okay? All right. Anybody else? Yes. Change order, okay? Let's see. Tracking KPIs. All right. Any other one? Tasks in one board. All right. Now, you write down what that process is. Okay? Now, but for the sake of this exercise, there are some things on this list, this maturity scorecard, that are action points. So, for instance, the tasks living in a board instead of chat is something that is not necessarily a process. It's something that you can decide, this is what we are going to do. All right? So, for this exercise, let's work with something that is a process, where there's a start, there's a finish, but that there's a chance that it might not be done the right way every time. We want to ensure that it's done right. The most basic one is client intake or client onboarding. Client intake is different from client onboarding, right? So let's say there's one process for when someone reaches out to us. How do we take them from that initial inquiry to when we close the sale? What's that process like? That's one. Another one is when we've closed the sale, how do we onboard them into our company or to onboard this particular service? That's another process that will have multiple steps, but where there might be challenges in between. Someone might forget to do one thing, forget to do another thing. Someone might not be in the mood and just skip a particular step, and then it affects things in the actual project. Or how do we hand over? when we are done. That's another example of a process. So I'm just giving you some ideas. So write down one process, write down the name. Now, why does this process exist? Why is this process important? That's what you write next. Okay? Process name and then purpose. And then next is, who is the owner? Who is accountable for this? Now, there's a difference between responsible and accountable. Responsible is the person that is doing the work. Okay? So you might have, if we're looking at client onboarding, for instance, it might be like an account owner, or it might even be the salesperson that is onboarding to the project team, right? That's the person that is responsible, the person that is doing the work. But the person that is accountable is who is ensuring that this person does it right. That might be your head of operations, that might be a manager. So there has to be someone that is the owner. Now, trigger is what starts this process. If it's client onboarding again, client onboarding begins when the client has signed the contract and made payment. That's an example. Okay? So you write down what the trigger is for this process that you are trying to get. Now, inputs, what must be ready? For us to start this process, what are some specific things that must go into it? An example might be, maybe there's a form that the client filled out at the beginning. Maybe you had meeting transcriptions of your conversation with the client, and you need to have that as you are doing the onboarding as well. These are just examples that come to mind, especially with our website design business. All right? Now, we are doing an MVP, right? Minimum viable process. Okay? It doesn't have to be perfect at this point, but you are going to define 5 steps for this particular process based on your experience. This is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3, this is step 4, this is step 5. Are we okay? Right? So 5 steps or the checklist for this particular action. What are 5 things that must be done? Some people are looking at me and I'm like, this is practical. Oh. I will go around and come and check what you're doing. All right? 5 steps. So in our own case, for instance, at CK Digital, our client onboarding process, the very first thing is there's a tool that we use. It's called Basecamp. It's a project management tool. So the very first step is add that project on Basecamp. So the client has made payment, add the project on Basecamp. And within that step, ensure that you add the project manager, the head of operations. And this is for the person that is doing the handover from sales to project, right? That's an example of step 1. Step 2 is create or upload the project brief. So a single document that says, this is what we are trying to achieve with this project. This is the scope of work or the proposal that was shared. These are the client's expectations. Has the client sent us any content? Is there any useful information we need to know about this particular client? Maybe the client has worked with us in the past and all of that. Create the client brief. Another step is invite the client into Basecamp. So that's what we do. Even our clients, we are working together on the same platform, right? I know see, it's one of the things that we've been able to achieve that I'm very happy about. And if I say it, some people say it's not possible. We don't use WhatsApp. Even with clients, we don't use WhatsApp. Because we learned the very hard way that when conversations are scattered, you then have a situation where someone says, I did not say this. This is what I said. That's not what I said. No. Even if we get on a call, someone will go to Basecamp and tag you and say, hello, Mr. So-and-so. As discussed. And you don't have to use a project management tool. You can do this via email. But we use a project management tool because it means that conversations, tasks, files, everything are in one place. Okay? All right. So those are just some examples of the onboarding. Another thing we do is the person that closed the sale will then introduce the project manager to the client that, hey, thanks for your cooperation so far. This is to officially introduce so, and there's a script for it. So the person is not wondering, what should I say? Just copy and paste, change the client's name, change the name of the project manager, shoot. Okay? And then we just continue with the process. So that's an example of a five-step process for any steps for a particular process. Now, we will define guardrails, and I'll come to guardrails. I'll go into detail, but the idea is, what are some things that are non-negotiable? Now, the reason why this is important is, and I'll again go in details, is every project is not the same. And sometimes that's what stops people from creating SOPs. They will say, process cannot work for my business. Every client is different. But the reality is there needs to be some things that are non-negotiable. Like, for instance, we work with the scope of work. Anything beyond the scope of work will be charged for separately. You can define that as a non-negotiable. It means that your clients need to be aware, your team members need to be aware, it needs to be documented as a policy. Right? Is that something that's, all right, makes sense. Now, we define non-negotiable, and you can leave this empty for now if you can't think of them, but if you can, right, and what are some things in this process that are non-negotiable? What are the tools in this flow? For this process, what are the different tools that we use? WhatsApp is a tool, email is a tool, Google Sheets is a tool, Notion is a tool. You list them out. Now, output. What does done look like? And just describe this. This might be a completed project with a client testimonial. That can be an example of something that is done. All right? What's the output of this particular process? So if it's client onboarding, the output is that the client is aware of our process, the client understands and has agreed to the scope of work, and we have requested their content. That's in our own business, right? We've requested some content. In your own business, it will be different. But this client onboarding process, how do we know that we are done? That's the output or done definition. Okay? Now, KPIs. What are the specific things we are tracking? If we want to improve this process, what are the things that we are going to be looking at? Are we still together? All right. So, for instance, client onboarding might be, we want to track how long it takes for us to onboard a client. We actually want to see, is it increasing, is it reducing? Is it taking us 1 week or 1 month to go from the start of this process to the end? We want to track that. That's an example of a KPI. We want to track how, in our own case, we might want to track what's the engagement level for clients. Because in our business, notoriously, I don't know if it works for interior designers as well. There's some clients that they will pay you. And you are now begging them, like, how far? Let us start. So if we measure, for instance, client delay in this process, we can track it at the end of the client onboarding process to say, client delay in the last project we did was 2 weeks. This one was 10 days. What did we do different? What can we do to ensure that we even further reduce this? That might be, instead of email, let's start calling the client. Right? But if you don't measure it, you just say that, oh, projects are taking too long. But what is taking too long about projects? All right. So define the KPIs, risks and countermeasures. This one is, you've done this process multiple times. What are some of the biggest challenges that might happen in this process that people need to be aware of? Okay? So you can just write anything that comes to mind. Again, remember, we're not trying to be perfect in this exercise, but it's important that you even do something. Okay? Now, training link. This is obviously when you're actually implementing. For this particular process, what are the resources I need? How do I learn this process? It might be a simple screen recording of this is how to do this. It might be a document that says, do this first, do this next, but there needs to be training, like an SOP or a Loom. Loom is like a screen recording tool. Okay? Any question so far? Or comment or concern? The idea is for this session to be effective. Is it overwhelming? No, I get it. So is there anyone that would like to just walk us through yours, like the process that you want to nail, the purpose, the owner, what starts it, what inputs are required, what's the 5-step process, are there any non-negotiables, what are the tools involved, what does done look like, what are the KPIs, are there any risks, and we ignore the training link for now. Anybody? Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be done. All right? Anybody? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, so what that would look like in reality is these are the systems, right? Or the processes. You then, if you use a calendar, you schedule it, right? This day, you invite the people that need to be on that call. So you might say, project process review meeting, 20 minutes call or 30 minutes call. It's scheduled, is done, right? It means that you have to intentionally say the meeting will not hold. So it's already in everybody's calendars, right? Now, when you do that, it sort of forces people to know that, okay, we're going to have this meeting to review this particular thing, right? But obviously, the input for this one is to ensure that those processes have at least been documented, yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what has worked for me and what I've seen is if something is set consistently, it makes things a lot easier, right? So instead of saying at the end of each project, we'll do a review, what I've seen that works is saying on the last Friday of every month, we do a review. If we've completed any project before that point, that's what we will discuss. If we've not completed any project, the meeting is not holding, but it is set so that we know that as long as there's a project that has been completed, we're going to do the review. Because what might happen is if we say at the end of each project, you know how it is. You just finish one project, another project has come in, there's no time to do the review, or you even just forget about the project review meeting. So that's where the calendar is very important, where it is set that this meeting will hold by so time every month or in a quarter. All right. So who is going to just give us a run through of their own blueprints? I have just about 25 minutes left, so, right? Okay. Yes? Someone? Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Esega Jane Francis, and I'm an interior architect, though I'm new to the interior world. So the process changed all that because that's one of my challenges on site presently. So the purpose why it exists, to avoid costs that was not intended for. Then the owner, for now, me, because I'm alone for now, no permanent staff. Then what triggers this is when the client's request for change.
Exactly.
Different from what was designed. The input, what must be ready? I don't know that part yet.
Okay.
Maybe you help me deal with that. Then the 5 steps and checklist is let the client know the implication, that is the cost implication of making changes. Then when he has agreed, he will redesign, then get approval first. Then we move to getting the cost of the changes, send to the client, then the client make payments before implementing it.
Okay.
Then the guide, non-negotiable, that's the approval, then the payment. The tools, for now I use WhatsApp, so I wouldn't mind maybe along the line, we'll learn the softwares that we can actually use. Outputs, getting the materials and getting the work done.
Okay.
KPIs, that I don't know for that particular change order.
Okay.
Then risk, that clients may deny or not acknowledge additional costs to the project. Training, that I don't know too.
Okay, please let's give her a round of applause. Let's give her a round of applause. Awesome. This is what it takes to just go through the process, right? There are some things that you might not have fully formed yet, but the idea is just to go through the process. Now, just some ideas. In terms of, which ones did you say you're not sure of? The input. Okay, so I think for this one, it's pretty straightforward. There needs to be a request. The request is the input. So imagine you were not the one involved. Your project manager says, oh, a client requested for something. You want to say, what is the request, right? So it might be a screenshot of the request that the client made. It might be notes from a meeting, but the idea is you want to see that thing before you approve that you move forward with it. All right, what else? Okay, now I'll leave this open. Other interior designers or interior architects or in this room, are there tools that you use within the process of managing change orders? What tools are involved? Email, yes. Exactly. So your tools would, you want to say something, okay. Your email, it might be WhatsApp, right? What tool do you use to collect the change order request, right? Or communicate with the client? It might be your Google Docs to document exactly what was requested. If you're using a project management tool or even your invoicing tool. So you're saying that what are the tools that people need to know how to use if you're going to be involved in this process? It might be your invoicing tool. It might be your, most likely your invoicing tool will be involved, your communication tool, and the likes. Okay, and is there any other part? Okay, no, the training one is when you are looking to implement this, you would have like a simple SOP that says when a client requests this, these are the steps to follow, right? So it's basically, instead of this one-liner that we are doing, what are the things you will actually do when a client requests a change order, all right? KPIs. Now let's think about KPIs. What are examples of KPIs to track for change order management? Ideas. What should we track if we want to measure and improve change order management? Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yes, absolutely. Any other one? So that's like speed. You're measuring how quickly is this thing happening, right? But you might also want to track what's the approval rate? So when we tell a client that this is how much it's going to cost, how often do they agree? I want to track it so that if we see that clients back to back, they are not agreeing, what do we need to do? Is it in terms of how we are communicating? Is it that our policy is not strong enough, right? Because if a client is saying, I don't agree, that bear the cost, something was wrong in the onboarding, right? But it's when we are measuring it that we can determine, yes, this needs to be fixed, especially when we're measuring it consistently and we're saying that this thing it keeps happening. All right. Yes, please. Oh yeah, everything is a policy. It's up to you to define what your policy is, right? So in our own business, right, also in the creative space, there are clients that, no, it's never the client's problem, it's our problem. There are situations where we did not clearly define a policy. So I will explain what we do. So we design websites, right? And many times, like interior designers, we will do like a mock-up or like a just a prototype of what this thing is going to look like. And then the client is supposed to review and approve before we go ahead to develop the website, okay? Now, there are situations where the client says, I love it, it's fantastic, let's move forward. But in our own excitement, we just said, okay, great, let's move forward. And we did not send the client a document that says, I have now approved, and it doesn't have to be so complex where they sign a document. It might be like, oh, I approve, right? But something that documents that they actually approved this thing. And then when we get to the development phase, the client is now saying, oh, I don't like this. We're saying, this is what you approved. The client said, no, I never approved this. Now, at that point, can we make the modification? If we did not communicate it in our policy and they did not sign off, if we want to keep the relationship, we will make the modification. Yes. Mm-hmm. 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 Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Keep changing. But do they keep paying? No, yeah, I just want to know. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Policy that can tell you, okay, changes maybe 3 times or whatever, that puts a stop. It's not just about the money, it's also about your team being able to deal with money.
Absolutely, and this is the reality. We ourselves, just yesterday, I got in a very difficult call with a client where we had to terminate the project. It hardly happens, but it happens. Where it was a matter of changes upon changes upon changes upon changes. It seemed like their morale was completely gone, right? So it's possible, but it's a very difficult thing to implement. But it should be documented in the policy that, for instance, we reserve the right to terminate a project after X number of continuous reviews, right? Everything is negotiable, like everything can be communicated. The worst part is when it happens, but there's nothing you can fall back to say, we communicated this upfront. And many times, when you've communicated it upfront, it's one thing to send them a like terms and conditions documents, another thing to communicate, right? Now, if there was communication, maybe there was an onboarding call where you explained these things, they will think twice before they do that thing. Many times, because there's no boundary, they just continue to do it, especially those clients where money is not a problem. Like, you have to be very careful. All right. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. 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 Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, so that's where tools come in. Tools and discipline, right? Because tools don't do all the work. There's also need for discipline. So one policy within our own company is every task must be added to the software, like our project management tool. You don't just say, do this. Okay, but assign a task, right? When a task is assigned, it's possible to now see all the tasks that have been assigned, which has been completed, which has not been completed. That's the danger of using WhatsApp. Because someone might thumbs up, heart, got it. But there's nothing holding them accountable to say, oh, and they may have the best of intentions, but they just forgot. So if there's a system where you're assigning tasks to people and you can easily track what has been done and what hasn't been done, it makes things very transparent for you to be able to oversee what's pending and for them as a way to remind them of what they are yet to do. So that's where those tools come in. Okay, so let's go. Now, the next part is, we're not going to spend too much time on that. It's just a template for when you actually want to create your SOPs, right? There are tools that help, and AI makes things a lot easier now. But, and this is coming from someone that is a technology person, be wary of just generating stuff with AI tools. Because you will have the sense of accomplishment that, oh, we've done this. But with the risk of not actually reviewing it, like, does this actually work for us? So if you understand how these AI tools work, they're just getting best practices on a global scale. They don't know the context of Nigeria, right? So if you say, oh, generate an SOP for client onboarding, they might tell you, do this, do this, do this, and it might not work. So take it as a way to, as an idea generator, right? Oh, give me ideas on how we can do this. And you can continue to prompt it to give you what you want, but it has to be something where you are intentional about the output that the tools are giving you. All right, so this is just an SOP template, like, okay, if you want to, and I need to mention, this is a very structured SOP, but the idea of an SOP is what needs to be done and how should it be done. If you don't put version, you don't put date, it will still work. But the reason why you are tracking version and date is, oh, when did we create this particular SOP? Is this version 1, 2, or 3? But so that it doesn't look so complicated that you just feel like, I'm not going to do this. The main thing is, for this particular process, what are the steps? Or how do we do it? Okay? Now, there's a part there that's called RACI, R-A-C-I. It means that for this particular process or task, who is responsible? Who is the person doing it? Who is accountable? Who is the person managing or ensuring that it gets done? Who is consulted? It might be the client that is consulted. It might be a quantity surveyor that is consulted. But who is consulted? And then who is informed? It might be the CEO that is informed, right? But different tasks have different levels of RACI that needs to be defined, okay? So that work is not being done and the client is not informed, or finance is not informed, things like that. That's why it's there. But we've already covered every other thing there, like triggers, inputs, procedures, quality gates or approvals, outputs. We've done all of that. But this is just when you get to the point of a particular process, how do you define the SOP for it? Okay? And the next part there just explains what the RACI means. Okay? Now, please, let's go back to my presentation. All right, I have 10 minutes left. No, not yet. Okay. Yes. So this is basically what we just discussed, right? What's the purpose? Who is the owner? What are the triggers and inputs? Steps and checklists, outputs and done definition. We've already covered this. Next. Okay, let me just use this. All right. Now, guardrails and flexibility. Again, one of the reasons why people say, oh, process cannot work for us, they'll say, oh, it's too rigid, right? But the idea is define the things that are non-negotiable for you. Use templates, right? Everything does not need to be custom made. In fact, if it's custom made, there's a problem. So your contract, your proposal, you might have different tiers of packages that you offer, right? There might be different proposals for them. There might be different contracts for those ones. But you want to ensure that you have these templates ready to go. And then 70, 20, 10. So 70 is like standard. 70% of the process might be like standard. These are things that need to be done. You can give up to 20% for templated options where, oh, for this particular thing, these are different variations. So for instance, just a practical example, in the script that we, in our company, use for client onboarding, we have different variations of the script, right? Oh, if this is a returning client, this is the script we use, where we're saying, oh, thank you for choosing CK Digital again. It's always a pleasure working with you. That's an example. If it's a new client, we're saying, thank you for your cooperation. Thank you for choosing CK Digital. These are the next steps, right? So you can have templated options, but there's always need for expert judgment. That's the final 10%, where you give people the autonomy to say, I trust you as a professional, that you will use your discretion to make the right decisions. Because it's not everything that the SOP can cover. The goal is for the SOP to cover as much as possible. But there's always a learning process on each project, right? That 10% expert judgment